I'm going to speak about innovation and how to inspire to the future. I'm going to speak about cockroaches, value co-creation, and reflection as a way to think the industry or how to move forward. So if we'll first start with a story. So one morning, Gregor Samsa was waking up from anxious dreams. He discovered that in the bed, he had been changed into a monstrous verminous bug. What happened? What happened? And please see this as a reflection from what we heard yesterday and how do we feel as researchers. There's something inside ourselves that changed. We need to understand what happened to us. What happened to us, okay? But for Gregor Samsa, that was not the only thing that changed that morning. He also received an email from the client saying, "Dear researcher Gregor, you feel awful, I know, give it on. When we interact, changed. The nature of our data changed. The questions have changed, but please remember to pick two and deliver the whole three, okay? The fast, the cheap, and the better." Okay, so adapt or die. Then he found a ring in a pocket saying, like, for rescue him, saying data diversity, volume, and velocity represents our big data opportunity and challenge to rule them all. You do what you have to do, and I give you $1 bill. Give you $1 bill. Yeah, well, you know, Europe is now in a crisis. You are just waking up, you cockroach, in Latin America. So that's all that you can get. And there we have this in Google We Trust. It's basically mostly related to big data. So he started to search for the important things and the urgent things. Okay? And he found a big amount of results, the important ones in 19 a fraction of a second. And the important one, well, this took a little bit longer to achieve results, but volume was enormous. And this was Gregor Samsa's report to the client, okay? So, of course, critics. Then the client says, well, Gregor, you know, you picked the fast and cheap, but you can and you should deliver better. Okay? Besides that, gamify a lot, gamify a bit, scan some brains, do brain washing, do something, but provide better. Okay, so Gregor Samsa came and he's sitting by there and he assisted to our first session where, for refreshing the basics, okay? And one of those basics is that value is co-created, and that's basically one of those reasons why we are here in Insight Innovation Exchange, okay? Because value resides in interaction and ever in the isolated parts, okay? That's why all this networking. So what I prepare here is thinking on those relationships, okay? And trying to understand what Gregor Samsa was asking, so what happened to us? What was the big change, okay? So we have the relationship between the agency basically and the brand that has the main objective of providing inspiration, providing insight. Then we have another critical place where we can find value, that it's basically the channel to see what brands and how brands are communicating to their consumers. Okay? They will create value if they can interact better with that consumers. And then we have that structured data that sounds awful, but that's what we do with consumers. Okay? Okay, so calm down, you cockroach, because delivering insights is still in our core. Okay? Well, the way that we interact changed a little bit. We have some pressures on time, some pressure on cost, but, well, insights are still the main objective. So you may feel that everything changed inside of you, but the basics are still in there. And then, well, realize that the big idea of your brand and the creativity are still the king when you relate to your consumers. Okay? That is the point where you should focus, and be aware that there's a lot of potential touch points out there to reach them. Okay? And understand that the brands, those are one of the key points today, or the key questions from clients. How can I leverage on this amount of different, completely different in nature touch points to deliver this storytelling, to deliver this big idea? So that's why the client is that puts such amount of pressure, because it's really challenging. Okay? And then on the big data part, well, it's never been about data anyway. It's been about a particular data. Okay? It's been about the structure of that data, what we sell. We do not sell unstructured data. Okay? So, as an industry, we should keep this in mind. It's the ability to give that data a structure, okay, for being able to read it and fits client's purpose. Okay. Okay, but be aware, because in this relationship, we have something that really, really changed. The nature and the sources of this data changed a lot. So, well, how we select and random samples are quite dead today, but be aware that you rely your story on the inferences you can make on the data about those consumers. Then we have the blending of new types of data. You have streaming data, we have the passive data, and passive data is great, right? Because you get information from the consumer without the need of an explicit question and answering to it. Okay? So one of the big challenges will be to learn how to blend that data. Okay? Because, well, questionnaire, consumers do not give us the time that they used to do. But this, we shouldn't blame online. Maybe the online research let us understand that they didn't stand for such a long survey. Okay? And then we have the brain revolution. And I think that this change is huge. This change is huge. How today we're understanding emotions and the impact of those emotions change in our basic size. And sometimes you wake up and you feel like a cockroach in that sense. Do I understand all this? Well, we are all in the same challenge, okay? Brands on how to relate to those consumers, how they achieve this great content or the big idea and the creativity, and how they use such amount of new potential touch points, and we are in the same side, in the same coin, but asking us the same questions on how we listen and how this is impacting the way that we should start listening to our consumers. Okay? So we are in the same channel. It's a new channel, and the challenge for us is practically the same. Okay? Okay? The objectives are still there, but questions change, the nature changed, but we are in the same channel. Okay? What if we learn to listen in the way that our clients are experimenting for talking to the consumers? Okay? I believe that there's a big source of inspiration if you start playing with that. Okay? Well, we'll go. I don't like this, so we'll go directly. Okay, so every touch point works, but each to a different extent. Okay? The challenge is how do you blend and you recognize which is the best combination of them all. So we proved that they worked. Okay? They work in terms of directly to the KPIs. So, and we realized that creativity is still keying. Well, we have a lot of this kind of learnings, but I'm most interested in this part, okay? I'm more interested on this part because we are meant to inspire, okay? Or think how the industry will move forward. So I propose this creativity activity that is, why don't you reflect, okay? Those learnings that we keep on saying to our clients regarding how should they communicate to their brands, and reflect them, okay? And what do you see? Where we stand as an industry? Who is the most catched up in that experimentation? Because we are in the same channel, okay? We both have the same complexity. Okay, so one of those learnings would be, well, forget about massive one-size-all communication. Start integrating different touch points in a holistic way, okay, for delivering your story and achieve good reception and good impact to your brand KPIs, okay? So what can we see there from the side of the industry, okay? Well, forget one size fits all research approaches and start blending. How do we feel blending different sources, different data that are completely different in nature? How do we feel regarding that? Okay? But I believe that that's a really good approach because now we are dealing with well, streaming data, passive data, emotional cues. We have a lot of new and different sources, new for us too. So that's represent a big challenge, the blending. Well, blending passive data, we have just an example. I hope that we don't, that's one brand, but it's basically how we deal to understand if a consumer's been exposed to a particular ad, okay? And furthermore, to being able to switch what the client is watching, okay? And we can play all this in the background, owning our panels and making some tagging and some technical things, okay? But we have all this information, for instance, who been exposed to a particular ad in the web, and we can even change what our panelists are seeing in their natural environment, okay? And that's all passive information. And we do not ask that because we do not, we start not to rely on those explicit measures. And on the other hand, it's better in terms of the timing. So this is how we could start blending passive with the survey, okay, to achieve stronger insights. Another one would be, well, just focus on your big idea. Well, we should start focusing and use the same and focusing on the big insights. Then internet connection is still aspirational for many of our consumers. Please try to engage them with simple mechanics and fast rewarding dynamics. That's something that brands learned, okay, during this year. So are we doing the same with our instruments for listening? Okay? Are we being simple and fast enough? Or are we forcing to the online platform our traditional research? Okay? We all know we have a lot there to start playing with that is actually what the client, what the respondent is seeing. Okay? We are still forcing them to answer those grids to a new reality, and that does not work. Okay. So we said, well, emotions powerfully impact on decision making. Okay, we know that, clients know that, they're starting to include more emotional cues within their advertisement. Are we really exploring the emotional consequences? Okay, so then you reflect on that and say, okay, are you using more neuroscience? Are you using implicit association tests? Are you gathering new data that we know that has much more impact than the one that the guy can even retrieve or to explicitate, okay? So I believe that that's a good exercise, okay? Because we are in the same channel. We have clients that have been experimenting for all these things. We have a lot of learnings. Then why don't we understand that we are in the same channel, that we have the same challenge, okay? And we should move forward, okay? So start trusting a little bit more on your own recommendations. Trust a little bit more, okay? And then reflect that. And the point is, how do you see all these kind of things? Well, I have no more time, and just to finish the presentation, just one thought: greatest learnings come from experimentation. Okay, so my suggestion is just to go out, create value, meet Braulio, Valentin Nabel, the game changer, meet them, relate with them, okay, and have fun, okay? Have fun. You will find new ways and better ways to listen, so you can drive change in your company and in the industry. Well, thank you very much, and open to questions. Okay.
Nós temos 2 minutinhos para pergunta. Alguém quer fazer pergunta para o Nacho?
No questions.
Obrigada. There. A microphone. There, please.
Well, we're starting blending, and in Latin America particularly, we started blending different sources of data collection, and one of the, and for many, I remember now, brand trackers, but what you realize there is that there are differences that you must understand. So what is driving those differences, okay? And being able to separate these mode differences, and mode differences sometimes have to do with validity, have to do with the data collection instrument, has to do with the quality, how good that instrument reflects reality. From that point of view, one of the biggest challenges is being able to deconstruct what we could call a D-mode, right? A D-mode demographic difference from the mode differences, and yeah, and try to understand which is the quality of each of those sources. And I keep on talking about the demographics because definitely you will end up reaching different consumers from each channel that you will blend, okay? So you must understand, for understanding if there's a mode difference that you should take into account then when you analyze the data, understand the profile between those two modes. It's just it's challenging job. I think that every company now is experiencing how to start blending this data. One element to have good blending, and I've been discussing this yesterday with Pierre, that he will speak. That is, well, you can blend on on respondent level. okay, where you obtained all this passive data, for instance, where did they navigate it, okay, and then you ask the survey. Well, you're blending two different data sources, but the individual, being able to have that information for an individual, okay, that is one of the strongest way to blend data, that it will be focused on that individual, and then you ask them from different levels, okay, but the consumer, well, the respondent will keep them all. I hope that answered. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nacho.